What's up, guys? Today, I'll show you a horror film, Salvage. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. The film opens with an abandoned parking lot in the wilderness. Jimmy is searching for something at the back of his truck. Suddenly, a man walks up to him. Jimmy looks at the man in terror. The scene switches to Claire's side. Having ended her night shift at a convenience store, she is going to hand over her duty to the greasy colleague who prefers to be called Greasy. Claire then leaves the store and waits for her boyfriend Jimmy to fetch her. While she sits beside the road, Jimmy's truck arrives, but the driver is a stranger that she has never seen. Skeptical, Claire hesitates to board the car. The man introduces himself as Duke, a friend of Jimmy. Claire gets on the vehicle, not noticing that there is a mysterious blue bag at the trunk. With a toothpick in his mouth, Duke speaks casually. Claire feels uncomfortable beside him. He even reaches his hand to touch Claire's cheek. When confronted, Duke does not feel ashamed of his sneakiness. Instead, he questions Claire whether she would reject the stroke if it were from Jimmy. Claire feels disgusted. Her only wish is to get home as soon as possible. Once the truck pulls over at her house, Claire dashes out of the car and flees home. She quickly shuts the door and tries to call for help. Instinctively, she knows Duke is all about dangers. Unexpectedly, Duke knocks on the door, claiming that Claire leaves something behind. Through the peephole, Claire realizes she dropped a star-shaped pendant. As Claire refuses to open the door due to safety concerns, Duke offers to put the pendant on the floor mat. Claire carefully observes his movement and makes sure he leaves on the vehicle. And then she slits the door open and takes back her earring. To her shock, when she turns around, the side entrance has been swung open. She rushes over to close it, only to find Duke standing right in front of her. Duke fits her down and draws a machete to stab her. Little does Claire know that Duke is a heinous serial killer. Deeply wounded, Claire is pulled into the basement. Duke continues to abuse her violently, and Claire lets out a series of screams in pain. The next moment, it is back to the convenience store again. Claire, who should have died, resurrects unbelievably. Having handed over to the same colleague, Greasy, Claire goes to the iron railings waiting for Jimmy to fetch her. At this time, the truck is coming towards her. Claire stares at the car anxiously and finally feels relieved when Jimmy greets her. Excited, Claire boards the car immediately. Jimmy pecks on her cheek and looks at her with eyes full of hormone desires. Claire doesn't give him tongue massage feedback. Instead, she tells him the nightmare of a stranger murdering her in the basement. The dream is too real to go unnoticed, but Jimmy does not take it seriously. He simply assures her that it is just a hallucination due to her long-stretched night shifts. Claire is a little upset that Jimmy does not share her feelings. Returning home, she takes whatever she needs before going to school with Jimmy. In the class, Claire pays attention to the teacher, but Jimmy keeps making faces at the window and even unties his pants to treat her with a hot dog. Reading his mind, Claire blooms into a bright smile. After school, they fly to the sports field together. Under the empty stands, the young couple plan to cuddle up. Right after a tongue massage, they are ready for a 6-9 hormone game. But Claire suddenly feels something wet drips on her face. She wipes it off with her hand and discovers it is blood. But Jimmy says there is nothing on her face. Jimmy wants to continue with the game, but Claire is too scared to think alike. Without any choice, Jimmy gets up to check around. He does not find anyone on the stand. Claire puts on her jacket and asks Jimmy to escort her home. Back home, Claire finds someone talking in the basement. She plucks up all of her courage to open the basement door. In pitch darkness, she painstakingly walks to the switch and turns on the lights. Surprisingly, her mom stands there facing the wall. When asked why she appears in the basement without lights, Mom answers that she comes to look for something that she has lost. Such an answer clearly does not make any sense to Claire. Coupled with the scary murder scene imprinted on her mind, she really finds this room weird. In fact, she is not sure whether she should trust Mom's word, so she flees the basement in terror, claiming that she is busy. Shortly after, Jimmy calls Claire to initiate a basketball game with Claire's best friend called Bastai. Knowing that Jimmy is definitely preying on Bastai's hormones, Claire ends the call with much unhappiness. At the basketball court, while Jimmy shows off his skills to impress Bastai, Claire bursts his bubbles by telling Bastai the truth. Jimmy defends himself and blames Claire for being too harsh. Still, the game ends in awkwardness. Claire takes Jimmy's car as usual, but this time they get into a heated argument. After a while, Claire looks out the window and sees Duke standing on the field. What's more, he is digging with a shovel to bury something. Just a glimpse of the murderer, Claire is scared to death. After reaching home, she takes a shower immediately, hoping to erase the creepy Duke from her memory. And then it cuts to the forest. The policemen are chasing after Duke, who is at large. Police dogs are called out on duty. Sirens and gunshots echo through the woods. Back to the bathroom, Claire, who has not finished her shower, senses danger. She speeds it up to get out of the bathroom. Turning off the tap, she is eager to find out what goes wrong. Unexpectedly, when she dries her hair, she sees Duke's face in the mirror. After she wipes the mirror clean, it reflects her own image. To solve the mysteries, Claire notes down the events in her diary. In the evening, Mom sends Claire to the convenience store. On the way, Mom tells her that she has got a new boyfriend. She might stay over at the boyfriend's house instead of returning home. Mom reminds Claire to take good care of herself while she is away. Claire is very surprised to hear that, but she bids farewell to Mom. Soon after, her shift begins, but there are very few customers. Claire takes a nap on the counter and spots a figure when she wakes up. In a panic, she picks up some weapon for self-defense and switches on the alarm. To her utmost shock, the uninvited guest is Duke. Claire is clearly not a match to his strength. Shortly after, Duke grabs her by the neck and she pokes his eyes. Just when Claire thinks she is not going to make it, Duke gives up the torture and runs out of the store, saying that it is not the right time. Freed up, Claire crawls out of the store with her blood-stained face. The policemen also arrive, but strangely, they do not find anything related to the struggle. Claire tells the police what she has gone through, but she cannot explain why her face is clean without blood. The officer extracts data from the surveillance camera to show Claire what is captured. Claire watches in disbelief that she is fighting all alone. There is no other man in the store. In the end, the officer concludes that Claire sees things due to her overloaded stress. Claire tries to convince the officer, but to no avail. He offers to give her a ride. On the way home, Claire falls asleep. In a trance, she finds herself in an abandoned parking lot. Jimmy is there searching for something. Duke shows up with an axe in hand and knocks Jimmy down. And at this moment in time, Claire opens her eyes, only to find she wakes up in Jimmy's truck, not late into the night, but in bright daylight. Still puzzled, she sees Duke walk into the truck with a huge blue bag. Frightened, Claire starts the vehicle and flees home to cry out for help. She shouts for Mom's help, but no one responds. What's worse, Duke has already broken into the house, holding onto the same machete. He drags Claire into the basement and skins her off with the machete. When the scene switches back to the convenience store, Claire does the duty handover for the third time. With the vivid memory of the two murder scenes, she worries about what will happen next. Greasy is behind her, waiting to take over. Claire quietly passes him the duty and runs out of the store. She journeys to the wheat field where she saw Duke previously. She recalls that Duke was burying something back then, so she tracks down the particular spot to check it out. Before she could investigate, Duke charges over from the other road, and then it flashes to the abandoned parking lot. Over there, Claire sees Jimmy's face stained with blood. Duke beheads Jimmy with an axe. After that, Claire is teleported to the classroom. Jimmy is making funny faces outside the classroom. Claire discovers that her teacher has already gone through the same content yesterday. She informs the teacher, but is told that she was absent the day before. Confused, Claire dashes out of the class. She does not understand why her life is full of drama. Jimmy catches up with Claire and tries to calm her down. Claire tells Jimmy that he is killed in her dream. Jimmy's smile freezes for a while, but he soon concludes that it must be Claire's hallucination. Claire insists that they are real. As they cannot persuade one another, Jimmy brings Claire to a church. They hope to have a talk with the priest, but he is not around. Jimmy then advises Claire to tell the cleaner all of her troubles, for he thinks that the cleaning staff is someone walking close to God. Claire explains that she dreams of the murderer Duke. As soon as the cleaner hears this name, he is surprised. He confirms with Claire she has really seen Duke. It is because, according to what he knows, Duke had died. Claire feels relieved upon hearing his words and leaves the church in a lighter mood. They chance upon a deserted wooden cottage on the way. Claire peeks into the house and finds out it belongs to Duke. Claire wants to explore the cottage, but Jimmy does not want to enter it. In fact, Jimmy believes Claire's dream to a certain extent, and he supposes this house must be haunted by Duke. After Claire enters the house, she looks outside the broken window and sees Duke. At this time, Duke returns to his cottage with a shovel. Freaked out, Claire quickly hides, but she soon hears Jimmy's piercing screams from upstairs. It turns out that Duke surprise attacks Jimmy when he uses the toilet. As Claire watches, Duke carries a huge blue bag on his shoulder. The shape of the bag indicates a dead man. Claire knows that Jimmy is slain by the sadistic murderer. After Duke drives away from the cottage, Claire calls the police to report everything. Unfortunately, the police officer does not buy her smelly bullshit, but rather tells Claire she's out of her mind. Helpless, Claire returns home. Unexpectedly, the truck which carries Jimmy's corpse parks at her house. Now that her house is no longer safe, Claire cannot dismiss the brutal scenes of herself being killed. She visits the school library to search for Duke. The shocking thing is, the newspaper reports that Claire and Jimmy have been killed, and Claire's corpse is not found. Scared to death, Claire evades the library and runs to the place where Duke was burying things. Beneath the soft soil, a badly decayed corpse suddenly appears. Claire recognizes the star-shaped earring and realizes that it is her own corpse. Then she cannot answer who she is and what state she is in now. Overwhelmed by all this, Claire seeks refuge at Bastai's house. Bastai hears her out and tells her to have a good rest. Now the focus is on the abandoned cottage. The police officer and Duke stand in confrontation. He points the gun at Duke, demanding him to own up everything. The officer says that Jimmy's body is found and Duke has no way to escape his punishment. Duke begins to argue that he was controlled by others and that everything he did was involuntarily done. Right after that, he wants to shoot the police officer, but the officer pulls the trigger faster, killing him in an instant. Claire wakes up on the couch at Bastai's house. She hears a conversation between Bastai and someone else, in which Bastai says that Claire is in. Terrified, Claire peeks up against the wall and sees Bastai talking to the murderer Duke. She cannot believe that Bastai just betrays her and leaks her whereabouts to the most dangerous man she is trying to hide from. Soon after, Bastai opens the door to let Duke come in. Claire's heart almost falls out when Duke is approaching the room with a machete. She evades the house through the window and boards the truck. Without further ado, Claire stamps on the accelerator, rushing back home. However, Duke jumps on the car and pulls the door open. While he clings onto the side door beside the driver's seat, Claire fights hard to kick his ass off. In the end, Duke loses hold and falls off. Then Claire discovers the blue container in the trunk. Opening it, she finds a dead Jimmy. Breaking down, Claire runs back to her home and locks all entrances. She cries out for Mom's help and hears Mom's voice from the basement. Mom asks Claire to come and help her in the basement. The fear of the basement stops Claire from moving, but Mom begins to scream in pain, calling the name of Claire. As a result, Claire discovers herself walking down to the basement without any self-control. Mom is standing with the back towards her. Claire wants to hold Mom's hands, but Mom turns around to grab hold of Claire. In shock, Claire asks what is wrong and tells Mom that she is Claire. However, Mom says that she is not Claire, but Duke instead. In fact, Claire has long been killed and missing. At this moment, Duke, with his hideous face, suddenly reappears at the entrance to the basement. He slowly strolls down the stairs with his machete. Claire cries out loud that she did not do anything wrong, but Duke does not care about her plea. Suddenly, Claire's face turns into Duke's face. The Duke with machete slashes it into the face of the crying Duke. At the back of the attacking Duke, Jimmy and Claire are seen. It's revealed that this is a punishment for the murderer Duke. His soul is trapped inside Claire's body to experience his victim's torment and sufferings for endless times. With a piercing scream, the crying Duke dies in the basement. The film ends with Duke haunted Claire restarting her life at the convenience store and ready for the handover time for the fourth time, indicating that Duke will never be able to get out of the loop. This is Daniel's CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.